welcome back to SoFlossyWithSyd. I'm so excited to be here with you guys today. Today we're going to be talking about interviews. I know a lot of you are applying this cycle, and if you're not, hopefully this interview video gives you a lot of tips and tricks on how to prepare and be successful in your interview. Now I know some of you guys have been wondering where I've been for the last month, and I have been very, very busy with school. It all seemed to hit me at once with exams and practicals and psychomotors. I've also been studying for a big exam that I will be taking next year. I will tell you guys more about it in the future, but for now we're going to keep it as a secret. But that's where I've been for the last month or so, just trying to succeed in dental school. But other than that, before I get started, if you haven't already hit that notification bell, make sure you click on that and that subscribe button while you're at it. But other than that, let's go straight into interview. Okay, so you've applied to dental school, you've filled out your ADTAS application, and you're waiting for your call for your interview. Now, there's definitely some things you can do to prepare for your interview. The first thing that you want to do is know yourself. Obviously, you want to know your strengths and weaknesses as far as your resume goes. That includes if you've had withdrawals, you want to be able to explain those. If you've had a slip in grades or GPA, you will definitely want to be able to explain those. But also be aware of your strengths. So if you've had any leadership positions, definitely you want to bring up those in your interview, as well as other extracurricular activities that you've had, even if you've had a job. That was one thing definitely for me. I had a job all throughout undergrad, and that was definitely something that I knew I wanted to talk about during my interview because it definitely had a play in some of my grades in my classes. Other than knowing yourself, you also want to know your application and know your resume. If they bring up a question in your interview about your application or your resume and you're not able to answer that, that is definitely not going to look good to interviewers, and it obviously seems that you just put things on your resume just to appear like a better candidate, which already does not look good. You also want to make sure that you're aware of your extracurricular activities and your research and other shadowing experiences that you have listed on your application, because those can also be brought up in interviews as questions, and it's nice if you're able to genuinely talk about those things that you were a part of. When you're also preparing for your interview, you also want to know the type of interview you're preparing for. Every interview process is different and varies from school to school. Some schools may do a group interview, which is personally not my favorite. Some interviews may require some sort of activity before, such as soap carving. I have seen some dental schools that do require that, whereas some interviews nowadays are going to be online via Zoom, which is totally different than how it was previously. So you do want to be prepared to sit down in front of your computer at a desk, no distractions, and be able to genuinely talk and seem interested in the interview when you are at it. Okay, and the last and most important thing you can do while preparing for your interview is to know why you want to go to dental school. You should already have that question answered since you've done your application, but definitely review and understand why you really want to go to dental school, why you're sitting at this interview, and you want to appear genuine, yourself, and natural. That is probably the most important thing, and interviewers and schools are looking for students that are truly passionate about the dentistry field and that are looking for students that are going to thrive at their university. Not only that, but they want to know how badly you want to become a dentist, because there are hundreds of thousands of other applicants who may or may not have received an interview that are wanting that position at that school just as much. So they want to see that you are committed and that you are passionate about being a dental student and that you belong at their school, especially when there are other applicants applying. Oh, and before I forget, last thing about preparing for your interview is make sure you have your outfit picked out before the day of the interview, because you're already stressing about the interview itself and what questions they're going to ask and if you're going to be nervous or not, and picking out your outfit at the last minute will make you even more nervous, especially when you don't have anything to wear. Okay, so after you have finally submitted your application, you've been waiting for your call or email, and you finally get it. And they give you your date, your time, and everything. What are you going to say? So here are a couple of my interview tips that you can use when preparing and on interview day. So first things first, before you get into the interview or even at your interview, make sure you know why the school you're applying to and interviewing at is the best fit for you. They're not going to want you to see that you're interviewing at this school and it's obvious that you're not really interested or you haven't done any sort of research on the school. Definitely understand why the school is the best for you and really show that in your interview so that they see that they are picking students that are really interested and passionate about their school and their university. Second tip, definitely know some key issues in dentistry right now, such as access to care, socioeconomic issues such as cost of care, things like that, and know some general issues that are happening in the community at where your school is located. Those will definitely show that you're interested and you're committed to the community that your dental school is a part of. Okay, so one of the next important things that I always recommend to people is to turn your disadvantages or the negative aspects of your application into positive. So what does that mean? For example, for me that meant turning the fact that I had to withdraw from a class into a positive. So how did I do that? During my freshman year, spring semester, not fun, don't recommend, I actually had to withdraw from my Bio 1 class. For me, that was very hard because, I was always the type of student that did well, but for some reason I struggled in Bio 1, still don't enjoy it, but made it through it. So in my interview, I was asked the question about some of the challenges that I faced throughout my undergrad experience or just in life in general. And so I brought up the fact that I withdrew from the class before my interviewer did, because I knew that they were going to ask about it, because that is something that usually they like to bring up if you have any discrepancies in your GPA, your grades, anything in that sort of realm. They like to also ask in the interview just to see what you have learned and to see the reason why there was some sort of drop in your GPA, why there's discrepancy in grades, so that they know that you're prepared for the rigor of their school. So for me, I brought up the fact that I withdrew from my Biology 1 class, and I explained to them that I wasn't happy with how I was doing in the class. I felt that I could do better, and that I actually withdrew from it because I wanted to really understand the material, and then I took it again that summer and actually ended up getting an A in the class. So that's one thing that they also like to see. If you have withdrawn from a class, okay, it happened, yes, but they like to see that you have learned from it, things that you changed. For me, I explained how I changed some of my study habits, and then ended up doing better in the class. And it really shows that, you can take those minor failures and still turn them into successful things. That's definitely one of those things that I feel like a lot of dental students also struggle with, is that you're going to fail in dental school. I definitely have failed a couple times in dental school, to be honest, but I'm still going to be a dentist at the end of the day, and I'm still going to make it. So that's one thing that I would definitely mention. Kind of got off topic there, but going back to the interview, definitely bring up any sort of discrepancies in your application, GPA, grades, if you took off a year from class, if you withdrew from classes, if you had a gap year, what did you do during that gap year? What did you learn? How is that going to help you in dental school? Definitely bring those things up before they ask you. One of the next things you also want to do during your interview is to ask your own questions. Ask about, the faculty, the students, the faculty-student ratio, how their program is. Ask questions that really make it seem like you are invested in this school. Now, you don't have to ask questions. Me personally, I was already nervous enough and couldn't even think of any questions to ask, and that doesn't matter. But if you do have questions, make sure you do seem genuine about them, and that you ask about things that are relevant, like their teaching style, how many students are in a class, when do you start clinics, things like that, that make it seem that you've done your research on the school. Again, you don't have to ask questions. For me, I didn't. Again, I was nervous. But if you do have questions, that is the time to ask, is during your interview. The last thing I will say, and probably the most important thing about your interview, is to be yourself. Be confident when you go into that interview room, or I guess that online Zoom room now, but be yourself, be confident with who you are, be confident with your application. Definitely adapt to the questions that they're going to ask you. You may not have the answers, and that's okay. Take a couple seconds after they ask the questions for you to think about them, because you definitely want to avoid rambling and staying off topic. You want to remain focused in the interview, and that's something that they're looking for. You also want to be honest. They have your interview most likely in front of them. They have what you've listed, so don't put things on your interview or your application that you won't be able to talk about. And I know I said be confident, but you don't want to be overconfident and seem as if you are being someone that you're not. And at the end of the day, if you still haven't received that interview call or email, it's okay. You still have a whole another couple of months, and if you don't get an interview call this cycle, apply again next cycle. That doesn't mean anything. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram or even on Facebook, or even comment below or send me an email. And don't forget, stay flossy.